שיר למעלות, אשא עיניי אל ההרים, מאין יבוא עזרי, עזרי מעם השם, עושה שמיים וארץ, אל ייתן למות רגליך, אל ינום שומרך, הנה לא ינום ולא יישן שומר ישראל, השם שומרך, השם צילך, על יד ימינך. יומם השמש לא יככה וירח בלילה, השם ישמורך מכל רע, ישמור את נפשך, השם ישמור צאתך ובואך, מעתה ועד עולם. שיר למעלות, אשא עיניי אל ההרים, מאין יבוא עזרי, עזרי מעם השם, עושה שמיים וארץ, אל ייתן למות רגליך, אל ינום שומרך, הנה לא ינום ולא יישן שומר ישראל, השם שומרך, השם צילך, על יד ימינך. יומם השמש לא יככה וירח בלילה, השם ישמורך מכל רע, ישמור את נפשך, השם ישמור צאתך ובואך, מעתה ועד עולם. השם שומרך, השם צילך, על יד ימינך. יומם השמש לא יככה וירח בלילה, השם ישמורך מכל רע ובואך, מעתה ועד עולם. אוי 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 אוי, שיר למעלות, אשא עיניי אל ההרים, אוי מאין יבוא עזרי, עזרי מעם השם, עושה שמיים וארץ, אל ייתן למות רגליך, אל ינום שומרך. אוי 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 אוי, שיר למעלות, אשא עיניי אל ההרים, אוי מאין יבוא עזרי, עזרי מעם השם.
Shivchi kamayim kamayim libe Enoi chach b'nei Hashem Shivchi kamayim kamayim libe Enoi chach b'nei Hashem שפכי כמים כמים ליבך ונוכח פני השם שפכי כמים כמים ליבך נוכח פני השם ושפכי כמים ליבך נוכח פני השם שפכי כמים ליבך נוכח פני השם שפכי כמים
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Let's see here. Let's get one of the backgrounds going because that. There we go. What is going on here? There we go. We'll go with that one. Okay. So, welcome to this week's World Alliance of Qara'im Torah study. I am Hakham Melech ben Yaakov of the World Alliance of Qara'im. And I thank you for joining us in this study. I had a really amazing day yesterday. I went to a place called Park Yarden, Jordan River Park, and they had there the ruins of an extremely well preserved city from I guess it's really second temple pre-first temple period times. They date it from the 10th to the 8th century, right? So let's see, the reign of King Solomon. Let's look it up. Reign of King Solomon. So they date him. No, okay. So they date his reign to 970 to 931 BCE. So they date this city from the 10th to the 8th century BCE. And the name of the city is, the name of the ruins, the city is Bethsaida. That's its later name. It's mentioned, it plays a big role in the New Testament. It's mentioned a bunch of times. And it's actually the city from where Jesus, okay, now I have to say it again. Every time I mention, see, this is the situation that one particular Karaite has put us into, that every time I mention Christianity or the New Testament, I have to point out for anyone who's listening who doesn't know that I am in no way, shape, or form a Christian or a Messianic or anything like that, and neither is the World Alliance of Qara'im. I'm just talking about this from an historical point of view. So it's mentioned in the New Testament as the place where Jesus walked on water, or from where he walked on water, on the Sea of Galilee, where he multiplied the loaves and fishes, where he healed the sick, and a bunch of other things. So that's what it was known for in the New Testament. But its history, as I mentioned, these ruins that exist there, and they were really incredible to see, are from the 10th to 8th century BCE. And there, the city is, in the Tanakh, the city is called Zer. City of Zer. Let me just look it up. Zer. Oh, okay. Well, here's a Jerusalem Post article from 2018. So I'll just read it. Okay, actually, here. Let me post this up here. Do it like that. By the way, can you guys all hear me okay? Because I'm trying different networks. I'm not sure which works the best. So can we do a quick sound check? You guys can hear me okay? Everything's flowing freely. Any rate, you let me know, please. Archaeologists have uncovered the entrance gate to the biblical city of Zer during excavations carried out in the Golan Heights. Over the past 2 weeks, the Golan Regional Council said, blah, 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 blah. We can skip this part. Okay. No, we'll just read it. In recent days, and after a year of recess, a group of 20 archaeologists from all over the world, together with the director of the Bethsaida project, Dr. Rami Arav, and under the auspices of the Hebrew Union College Jerusalem, conducted new excavations in 2 different areas of Bethsaida. The ancient fishing village is mentioned several times in the New Testament as a city where Jesus lived and where he miraculously fed a multitude of people with 5 loaves and 2 fish. Archaeologists said the size, wealth, and impressive fortification indicate that Zer was a major city. There are not many gates in this country from this period. Bethsaida was the name of the city during the Second Temple period, but during the First Temple period, it was the city of Zer, Rav says, pointing to Joshua 19:35, which says the fortified towns were Tzidim, Zer, Hamath, Rakat, Kinneret. Rav began carrying out excavations of Et Tel on behalf of the University of Nebraska nearly 30 years ago. In these excavations, he identified the ancient Bethsaida, and following his excavations and discoveries, masses of Christian pilgrims visited the site because of its great importance to Christianity. Anywho, it goes on, and yeah, let's see. Anything else that needs to be said about it? No, not for our purposes right here. So, at any rate, it was really an incredible experience because you see this ancient city gate. There's an outer gate, and then there's an inner gate. And after you go into the inner gate, there's 4 chambers, 2 on each side. And this is spoken about a lot in biblical archaeology literature about how gates in ancient Israel / Canaan had this structure where you go into the gate, and then you have these chambers. They're like rooms. They're like stone chambers. And sometimes there are 2 on each side, and sometimes there are 3 on each side. And I remember correctly, let me just look this up for myself right here. Let me just look. To 3 gates in city. So, 6 chamber gates. Solomon. Okay, it doesn't matter right now. 3 on each side. The gate was go ahead 3. So I think if I remember correctly from the biblical archaeology literature. Okay, so it's a Solomonic gate. I'm going to post this. Share screen. So let's learn just a drop about Solomonic gates. So the Solomonic gates, make this a bit bigger for make it easier to see. The Solomonic gates refer to the 3 gates in the 3 cities of Hatzor, Megiddo, and Gezer mentioned in the first book of the Kings, where it is told that King Solomon built the fortifications to protect these cities from the oncoming military attacks. It fell to King Solomon to consolidate the kingdom that his father David had won by the sword. Part of this consolidation consisted in fortifying many of the cities of Israel. Okay. So after the discovery of the 6-chambered gate of Hatzor, Yigal Yadin, probably one of the most famous biblical archaeologists of recent times, published his most famous concept of identifying the 6-chambered gates of Hatzor, Megiddo, and Gezer with 1 Kings 9:15. This identification was based, let me just make sure you guys can see this. This identification was based on the explicit mention of 3 of these cities, Hatzor, Megiddo, and Gezer, as fortress cities in the Book of Kings. However, recent scholarship has cast doubt on this idea. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. The monumental 6-chambered gate at Tel Hatzor, and here you can see a picture of it. Let's see if I can bring that up. Okay. So here's an example of this. I guess, if I'm remembering correctly from the literature, these are Solomonic gates, because you walk into the gate here. Okay. And then you have 3 chambers, 6 chambers, 3 on each side. So 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, I guess that's 2, 3, it looks like 4, I don't know. 1, 2, anyway, there's 6. I guess these last ones are maybe not chambers or something. But or maybe this is 1 tied together. I'm not sure. There are supposed to be 3 on each side. Okay. So the monumental 6-chambered gate at Tel Chatzor is widely attributed to King Solomon. The gate is located in the center of the upper city, allowing entry into the citadel from southeast direction. The gate is symmetric on both sides of the entrance and is composed of 2 towers, 3 rooms within each tower, and 2 bastions projecting from on both sides. The English here is bad. Dated to the 10th century BCE, the gate has 6 chambers and 2 towers. So I guess maybe these last 2 here are the towers, not the chambers, okay? And then we have other examples as well. Let's look at the one at Tel Gezer. At Tel Gezer, archaeologists have uncovered the remains of a huge 6-chambered gate complex dating to Solomon's time, 920 BCE. This once huge gate complex stands only 4 to 5 feet tall today. Although the gate is believed to have been built by the legendary King Solomon, the dating is still under debate. With the street pavement partially gone, one can see the exposed sewer channel. The sewer ran under the street, through the city, and into the valley beyond. Based on archaeological remains, the gatehouse at Gezer was over 45 feet wide, nearly 60 feet long, and contained 3 chambers on each side of the street. So this picture here describes Solomon's gates, Solomonic gates. Okay, so we see here. So this is Chatzor, and I guess these extra ones that I saw here, these are not chambers. These are where the base of where the towers were, right? So so that is typical of what's called the Solomonic gate. Okay, 3 chambers on each side. Now, the gate that I saw yesterday, let's see if I can bring up a picture of it. Side gate. See, they have an overview of it from the top somehow. Maybe this one will do. Can't see it from there. Oh, I'll bring this picture up anyway. Let's see if we can see a better one. Let's see if we can find a better one. Maybe this one. We'll go with that one. Okay. That's one of the chambers. All right. I'll just bring this one up. Or this one up. Or that one up. There. Let's bring that one up. Oops. It's a bit small. 1 second. Okay. Good enough. Anyway, that's the gate. And instead of 3 chambers on each side like this, oh, I didn't bring it up. Oh, I see what I'm doing here. Hold on a second. Let me do this differently. Present, stop screen, present, share screen, window, boom. There we go. So this is at Bethsaida, at Biblical Zer, the place that I visited yesterday. And instead of 3 chambers on each side, this gate, there's an outer gate, and there's an inner gate, and then there's a courtyard between the gates. And that's where all the action of the city took place, in that courtyard between the gates. In fact, there are places in the Tanakh where it says Ben HaSha'arim, between the gates. And that was like the central courtyard. That was like the the Times Square of the ancient city. It was the area either right, if there were 2 gates, if there was an outer wall and an inner wall, then the area between the gates. Or if there was only 1 gate, if there was only 1 wall, then the area once you walk into the gate, then there was usually a rechava, like a plaza where a lot of the action took place. And to make a long story short, it was really an incredible experience visiting this place, because I saw, one who goes there sees this intact gate structure, and a lot of the city, you see the ancient city wall. You could actually walk up to and touch it. There's no guards there or anything like that. So I was actually climbing on the ancient city wall of the city from Davidic times, basically. And and you can walk through the outer gate into the plaza between the two gates, then walk through the inner gate. And once you walk in the inner gate, you see the two chambers on each side. And then you see right after it was a bama, a high place, where the pagans would, of course, bring sacrifices to their false gods. It was an incredible experience. So, okay, what can we sum up here? So we can learn that the Solomonic gate has 3 chambers on each side, and there are 3 places where these types of gates have been excavated: Gezer, Megiddo, and Hatzor. Megiddo and Hatzor are both in the north. Gezer is more towards the south, in the Jerusalem area. And that this gate yesterday, Bethsaida, so Bethsaida is a city that is mentioned many times in the New Testament. So it's the place again where Jesus, again, I have to mention, I am not a messianic or Christian in any way, shape, or form. I'm just speaking historically here. It's the place where Jesus walked on water, or from where he walked on water, because this city now, Bethsaida, is not right on the Kinneret. It's maybe, I don't know, a couple kilometers, maybe a mile or two from the Kinneret. But back in the day, back in Second Temple period times, it was right on the Kinneret. The Kinneret has receded from the city, but it was the place from where Jesus walked on water, quote unquote, multiplied loaves and fishes, and healed the sick. So it has a big, and then later on, then it's one of the cities that Jesus pronounces a curse on, where he says, if these miracles had happened in Tyre or Sidon, then they would have, I curse you. And there were 3 cities that he curses. It was Bethsaida. I think the other one was Chorazin. And I can't remember the other one offhand, but he curses 3 cities. And he says, if these miracles had happened in Tyre or Sidon, which were Phoenician cities, then they would have repented. And so therefore you 3 cities are cursed. And one of the cities he curses is this city, Bethsaida. Okay. And then, of course, if we go back to Tanakhic times, then as we saw, it's mentioned as the biblical city of Zer. Now, Zer was not an Israelite city. It was an Aramean city within the kingdom of Geshur. Geshur was the father of Ma'akah. Ma'akah was one of the wives of David, and David and Ma'akah had a son named Absalom. And of course, you guys have all heard of Absalom, right? Absalom rebelled against David. Absalom also avenged the rape of his sister, of his full sister Tamar, who was raped by another one of David's sons, Amnon. The story of Amnon and Tamar. So Absalom, at a certain point, after he avenged the death of I'm sorry, after he avenged the rape of Tamar, then he no, I'm sorry, it was after the rebellion, his rebellion against David, if I remember correctly. Then he fled. It says he fled to Geshur. It says he fled to the kingdom of Geshur, and this was the major city in Geshur. Bethsaida was the major city in Geshur. So it's very possible that he fled to Bethsaida, that he actually fled, that Absalom, David's son, actually fled to the city of Bethsaida when he fled David after David took control. No, I'm sorry, that doesn't make sense. Absalom was killed in that case, right? Absalom was killed at the end of that rebellion. My mistake. It's after he fled, after he avenged the death, after he avenged the rape of Tamar. That's when he fled, and that's when he went to Geshur. So it's very possible, and he stayed there for a number of years, and then eventually David and he reconciled, and David asked him to come back to Jerusalem. And then after that, then he rebelled against David. So Absalom was a very problematic son, obviously. Although one could perhaps justify the rape of his sister by another one of David's sons. I mean, the avenge for the rape. No, one cannot justify the rape of his sister. One can justify him avenging the rape of his sister by Amnon. At any rate, so it's very possible that when Absalom fled, that he fled to this city Bethsaida, because Bethsaida, then called Zer at those times, was the the main city in the kingdom of Geshur. Any rate, so that's that. It was really interesting. I did a video. Let me see if I could bring up the video while I was there. Actually, I did a number of videos. Oh, and then afterwards, then I did a hike. Then I did a hike on the there was a hike right on the Jordan River, and actually for part of the hike, I swam yesterday in the Jordan River. It was really amazing. The river is not wide there. You can walk across it. I mean, you'd think you'd almost call it a stream at that place, but it was a very fast, not very fast, but fast flowing stream. So if you go out into the middle of the Jordan River and you hold on to one of the rocks, you have all the water rushing by you. It was really an incredible, incredible, incredible experience. And then as part of the path, you actually is called the wet path. You actually walk within the river. They put there's like a channel that goes off of the river, and as part of that hike, you actually walk in the river. So it was amazing. Anyway, let me see if I could find this video. I'll post a link to it that I did while I was there. I have to go to the other channel. Let me see. Hold on a second. Let me do it this way. 1 second, please. Do it on the phone. 1 second. Your channel, videos, live, and let's see. Okay, share. Indoctrinated into the rabbinical way of thinking that we share, copy link. Let's see if it picked it up. So there it is. And Paul says, looks like I'm here by yourself. I don't know what you're talking about. I see a whole bunch of comments. Where are all the comments here? I see a lot more when you bring them up on the live stream. Not sure what you're talking about. Oh, because you're on YouTube. I don't know. I'm not sure why the comments are not showing up there. Any rate, so I'll just post this link here. You can grab it off the chat. But this is the video I did yesterday while I was there, and I did a number of other videos there on the same channel. So I'm trying to put more content now on the World Alliance of Qara'im channel, and maybe slowly switch over from the Karaite Insights channel to the World Alliance of Qara'im channel. We'll see. Maybe I'll do a little bit of both, but I also did a couple of shorts while I was there. So yeah, that's the link. If you want, you can go check it out. All right, so let me take a very, very quick break. I just want to grab some water, and then we will start our Torah study. So let me come right back. I'll just stop this. I won't turn on any music or anything like that. I'm just going to go grab some water, and I will be right back. Okay, I'm back. So we'll start the Torah study now. Again, let me just say, on it. Let me just say, oh yeah, and when I was, it was very surrealistic because when as I was doing this walk in the Jordan River yesterday, let me get rid of this stuff, and let me get rid of this. In the distance, you could hear the Kippot Barzel, the Iron Dome, anti-missile missiles going off. So I'm walking in the Jordan River. It's this beautiful, setting, and in the distance you hear boom, 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 like you hear these, thuds, like in the distance, and everyone just continued on as they were. It was a very surrealistic kind of experience. Luckily, there was nothing, at least right in that area. Okay, so we're going to start our study now. So we spoke about 2-chambered gates versus 3-chambered Solomonic gates. Let me close all of this off. And let me share the screen. And we're going to go to Leviticus chapter 19. That's where we were. And let me bring up my other usual suspects. So we've got our Robert Alter. Okay, so we're in Leviticus chapter 19. And I believe we got up to verse 10. Oops. Leviticus 19. So let me bring this up. So just an announcement about the World Alliance of Qara'im community. As I said, I'm not making an official announcement quite yet because I just want to feel things out a bit more. But if you want to, based on an unofficial announcement, if you want to be part of a World Alliance of Qara'im community, live community, then come move to Katzrin in the Golan Heights. You will not regret it. It will be one of the best things you could ever do in your life. It's so beautiful up here. There's so much history. There's so much nature. As you could see from what I was describing about the little trip I took yesterday, we can have Torah studies on a daily basis. We can have communal meals together. We can eat over each other's houses. We can do these tiulim, these hikes to different places, and we can live as Karaites, support each other, help each other grow, help each other become more knowledgeable and wiser in Torah/Tanach. So yeah, if you are a bit on the adventurous type and you're ready to make the move, then come to Katzrin and you could join me and we can start this community. Again, why don't I want to make an official announcement yet? I think it's a great place for various reasons for the first World Alliance of Qara'im community. It's just beautiful up here. People are friendly. The city is, I've mentioned all these reasons before, but I just want to feel things out a little bit more. Like, how would we as Karaites be accepted? I think the answer is we'd be accepted very well. I've already kind of spoken to people. I haven't always said explicitly that I'm a Karaite when I speak to rabbinical Jews because it kind of maybe already puts a wall up with them. But I express my Karaite ideas without explicitly saying it. And then there are a couple of people here who already basically know that I'm a Karaite. So yeah, it would be great to have other Karaites join me here and let's start setting up an actual live community, because it's not the same when you do it live as it is, or when you do it over the internet, as it is when you have an actual community where we're part of something. Okay, so that being said, let me share the screen. And we're going to look at Leviticus chapter 19. So this is page 987. So I have to bring up 987 here. (987). And I think we got up to 10. I think we got up to verse 10 last time, so we'll take it from there. Let's just read through without any commentary 1 through 9, just so we can get context here. Okay. And sound check, you guys can all hear me and see me okay? Please let me know. Okay, so we're in Leviticus chapter 19, verse 1. Cool. Sound check is goof. All right, Adin Larange. I know who you are. I won't give up your identity. Okay, we're in verse 1. Vaydaber Yahweh el Moshe lemor. Verse 2. Daber el kol adat bnei Israel. Ve'amarta elehem kedoshim ti'u ki kadosh ani Yahweh Elohechem. So remember, we said that Leviticus 17 through 25, is it? Is it 17 through 25? Let me just check that. I think 17 through 25. It doesn't matter exactly. It's called the Holiness Code. So the biblical, the secular biblical, those who adhere to the documentary hypothesis, which I do not adhere to in the least, but it's important to know. So they say basically the entire book of Leviticus is of the P source, the priestly source. And then they say that there's something called the Holiness Code, which encompasses Leviticus 17 through, I believe it's 25 or 26, which is a subset of the P source, of the priestly source. They call it the H source. And these biblical criticism adherents say that it was either written previously and then before the P source and then incorporated into the P source, or was written after the P source and then incorporated into the P source. At any rate, they see it as an external source that the P or priestly source incorporated as part of the book of Leviticus. Okay, if you are not familiar with the Wellhausen school and biblical criticism and the documentary hypothesis, then all of that is meaningless to you, and it really doesn't matter. I'm just pointing that out because if you watch a secular, let's say, YouTube videos on biblical topics, or if you read secular literature, then you might come across that. If not, don't really worry about it too much. It's not really that important. Anywho, so the reason it's called the Holiness Code, which again, I don't believe, of course, that it's a separate source. I believe the Torah is all one source. Ki kadosh ani Yahweh Elohechem. Okay, so I'm sorry. Let's start here. Kadoshim ti'u ki kadosh ani Yahweh Elohechem. Be holy because I, Yahweh, your God, am holy. Okay, we see this constant repetition of you should be holy. You should be holy because I am holy. Okay, and that's why it's called the Holiness Code. That is repeated a lot in these chapters, Leviticus 17 through, again, I can't remember, it's 25 or 26. I think 26. Okay, verse 3, Ish imo ve'aviv tira'u wa'et shabtotai tishmaru ani Yahweh Elohechem. I'm not going to translate. I just want to get us up to speed. You can translate on your own there. Al tifnu el ha'elilim wa Elohei masecha lo ta'asu lachem ani Yahweh Elohechem. So it should be pointed out, as we pointed out last week, that these are 3 of the 10 commandments. Verse 5, tizbahu zevach shlamim leYahweh leritzontchem tizbahuhu bayom zivchachem ye'achel umimacharat umimacharat wahanutar ad yom hashalishi ha'esh yisoref. So if you bring a fellowship or a peace offering, then it must be destroyed on the third day. I think we cross-referenced this to, I believe it was Leviticus chapter 7, if I'm not mistaken. We saw it was mentioned before, so there's a repetition of what is already mentioned in Leviticus chapter 7. Ve'im he'achol ye'achel bayom hashlishi pigul hu lo ye'raseh. So if you eat it on the third day, then you're in trouble. It's a disgrace. You don't allow Yahweh's sacrifices to sit around and rot. Okay? Verse 8, V'chlav amno yisa ki eth kodesh Yahweh hilel unichlata hanefesh ahi me'ameha. Verse 9, so really bad punishment for eating the peace offering on letting the peace offering rot and eating it and letting it sit around and rot and then eating it. Okay? Karaite, excision. Excommunication. Verse 9, "U'kitzorchem et katzir atzchem lo techale be'at sadcha, tzor walek kitzircha lo tilaket." So this is pe'ah and leket. These commandments mean, the first one means leave the corner of your field for the poor. When you harvest your field, you leave the corners for the poor. How much do you leave? Right? The rabbis spend a lot of time asking, how much do you leave? And I think the answer is the Torah does not tell us how much you leave. So it's kind of up to each person to decide how, right? The corners could be small, they could be large. Corners can mean a lot of things. So each person decides what is in their heart. Do they want to leave small corners? Do they want to leave larger corners? Do they want to leave very large corners? And that is called the gleanings. Okay, whatever's left over after you go through and get your harvest, you don't go back and pick up all the rest. You leave that for the poor. Verse 10, okay, so the same with your vineyard. When you pick your grapes, anything that falls on the floor or anything that's left on the vine, you don't go back and pick it up. You leave that for the poor. Here it says the poor and for the ger. Okay, so that was verse 10. So that's where we got up to. Okay, now we're going to start in verse 11. Okay. So verse 11 says, Lo tirnevu, velo tihachashu, velo tishakru ish ba'am mito. Okay, so do not. Why is my cat screaming like that? Don't steal. Okay. Don't deny. Let's see the translated here. Deal falsely. Okay. Velo tishakru, and do not lie. Ish ba'amito. Do not lie to each other. Okay. So these are. So lo tignevu, again, obviously it should be pointed out, is one of the 10 commandments, right? It is the 6th commandment. And so we saw earlier that Leviticus 19 has some repetition of the 10 commandments as first presented in Exodus chapter 20 and then reiterated in Deuteronomy. When we get to Deuteronomy, we will see that as well. But then the other ones are kind of like, right, this is kind of like, just be fair with each other, be honest with each other is basically what this is saying. Okay. Let's get a translation on that one. Go with Robert Alter, see how he translates that one. Okay, you shall not steal, you shall not dissemble, and you shall not lie, no man to his fellow. I have no idea what dissemble means. Let's look it up. Robert Alter likes to do that from time to time. Define dissemble. Dissemble, conceal one's true motives, feelings, or beliefs. So don't be a snake in the grass. Disguise or conceal. All right, I never knew that. I learn something new every day, don't we all? So dissemble. Okay, so basically don't be sneaky. Chash in modern Hebrew, lechachesh means to, no, lachish means to basically to deny, like to deny you did something. Like if someone comes to you and says, you took my, I don't know, my greasy falafel balls, then if you makhish at that, if you makhish, then you're denying it. You say, no, I did not do such a thing. Okay. Let's see. Let's look at the BDB for a second. Disappoint, deceive, fail, grow, lean. Okay. Be disappointing, deceive, fail, grow lean. Grow lean. And we have a lot of examples. Psalm 109:24. My flesh has grown lean, away from the fatness. Birkai kashlu mitzom. Your enemy shall cringe, come cringing, i.e., originally act deceptively, feigning obedience. Kachshuei vechalach. Okay, so we're not going to go through the whole thing right now, but I think we get the idea, right? So this is interesting. This, I think, gives an interesting insight. Okay, come cringing, i.e., originally act deceptively, feigning obedience. So kachash again means to deceive, disappoint, deceive, fail, grow lean. Okay, that's an interesting one, right? That's not just a straightforward verb. I myself will have to go back and take a look at it a little bit more. I mean, I know in the modern Hebrew context, lachish, as I mentioned, but kachashu. Okay, let's get another translation of that. By the way, I don't know if you can hear that in the background, but those are the fighter jets passing above. We hear them up here in the north. We hear them pretty much all day and all night long, and they are either on their way from Lebanon or coming back to Lebanon. I guess maybe they're delivering some more pagers or walkie-talkies, you know. Anywho, so let's see here. Right, let's get an Everett Fox translation on that one. Torah, Everett Fox. So we're in Leviticus 16. So let's say one. Oh. Leviticus 16. Let's see how he translates it. He's also a very good translator. 16:10. Oh, not 16. I'm sorry, 19. You are not to steal, you are not to lie, you are not to deal falsely, each man with his fellow. So I guess he translates this as lie. And then he translates, or maybe he's translating Tichashu as deal falsely. I guess he must be, because Tishakru is definitely lie. So deal falsely. That's how he's translating it. Robert Alter is translating it as dissemble, which means to act sneakily, right? To act deceptively with, right? To be a snake in the grass. Okay, so I think we get the idea. Don't steal. Don't be a snake in the grass with your fellow Israelite, and don't lie to your fellow Israelite. So just general ethics, right? The Holiness Code, general ethics, intertwined with the Ten Commandments. We see that the Ten Commandments, at least in many of these verses, seems to be kind of like a touch point. Like it mentions the Ten Commandments, but then it goes on to other things that are either peripherally or, basically peripherally related. But all of this has to do with at least these recent verses have to do with being nice to each other, being good to each other. Okay. Now, of course, does that mean that, if your wife puts on a dress and it doesn't look good on her, that you should tell her? No, of course not, right? All of this is common sense, right? I remember, what did a comedian once say? He said, "What do you not say if your wife comes to you and say, does this dress make me look fat?" This is what you do not say. Compared to what? Okay, so obviously all of these are general guidelines, right? These are general ethical guidelines. The devil is in the details. When we live our day-to-day lives, there may be times where we have to lie. There may be times where we have to act deceptively. There may be times where we have to steal. Okay. I don't know. Let's say somebody stole your I don't know, your bicycle. Well, then and you steal it back. That's not really stealing. I don't know. It's a horrible example, but you get the idea, right? These are general guidelines, and I've seen too many people take them to extremes. Like, I can never ever lie. Okay, I can never ever act deceptively. No, obviously there are times, right? If the Israeli intelligence forces didn't act deceptively in selling the those Hezbollah dudes the walkie-talkies and the pagers, then right, then where would we be right now, right? That's a good thing. So everything has to be taken in context. I think it's important to realize again that the Torah is giving us general guidelines, and because written words cannot explain what to do in every single possible situation and permutation of our of the lives of 8 billion people on living on this planet for the past however many thousands of years, or being full human beings forever, forever, however many thousands of years. So it gives general guidelines where to internalize those guidelines, and then where to uh, act accordingly in each specific instance as our lives move along. Okay, so don't. It doesn't mean never, ever, ever. Right? These are general guidelines. Everything has to be contextual. Everything has to. You can't be stupid about things, right? You have to use common sense. Verse 12. Velo tish'avu shmi shaker. Okay, another one of the Ten Commandments. Achilata et shem Elohecha ani Yahweh. Do not swear falsely in my name. Achilata et shem Elohecha ani Yahweh, and profane, disgrace the name of your God. I am Yahweh. And we see again the I am Yahweh. So we've seen this a lot in the Holiness Code, the quote unquote Holiness Code, where God reminds us, I need Yahweh. In other words, giving it that much more of an authority or force, or remembering who it is who's telling you these commandments. Okay, basically giving a little bit of oomph to it, right? A little bit of okay, it's me, Yahweh, who's saying this stuff to you. Okay. What else is there to say about that? So again, that's one of the Ten Commandments. Let's bring up the Ten Commandments. Right? So we have them in front of us. Let's bring them up in English. Well, no, I better bring them up in Hebrew. I'll just go to Exodus 20. Right, so we've already seen lo tignov. We saw that in the previous verse. We've seen honor your father and your mother in one of the previous verses in this chapter. We've seen keep the Shabbat. Okay, that's from here to here. Actually from here to here. Okay. And now where is it? So Shabbat is the fourth commandment. So the third commandment is do not take my name in vain. But what this really means, okay, is don't swear. It means exactly what we see here in Leviticus 19, verse 12. Don't swear falsely in my name. If you're going to invoke my name, right? And there was a certain formula that we see throughout the Tanakh, which is as Yud-Hey Vav-Hey lives. I don't want to say it because that's the formula for saying a vow, even though God's not stupid. He realized I'm not taking a vow by saying it. So I will say it. So Chai Yahweh, as Yahweh lives, if I don't come back with, I don't know, $300 for you or something like that. Okay. That's the formula. That is taking and sometimes Yahweh swears in his own name. We see this in the Tanakh as well, in the Torah and in the Tanakh, that 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 when you invoke the name of Yahweh in a swear, in an oath, okay, then it should not be a false oath. If for whatever reason you can't keep the oath, well, actually Numbers chapter 30 deals with that. You should try to avoid taking oaths in the first place. But if for whatever reason you can't keep the oath, but you honestly intended to, I don't think that is included here. It's when you swear deliberately falsely, when you deliberately invoke the name of Yahweh to make a deliberately false oath. That's what's being spoken about here. Okay, and in doing so, you profane the name of Yahweh. You make Yahweh look like a fool, almost. Right? You're invoking his name, and then you're not sticking to it. You're not treating him with the proper honor. If you're going to invoke his name, then you better be serious about it, right? It's like when we were kids and growing up in New York. I don't know if they did this in other places, but I swear on my mother's life that I'll be back in 10 minutes, right? Stuff like that. Or I swear on my mother's grave, we used to say sometimes, like, in other words, if I break this oath, then may my mother die, right? That was very common. So this is the same idea here. You're swearing on the name of God, right? Hi Yahweh, as Yahweh lives, if I do not, come back with 300 Philistines or something like that, 300 dead Philistines. Okay, that would be nice. So that's the idea here, and then of course harkens back to the third commandment in the Torah, which is this: don't usually translated as "don't take God's name in vain," but literally what it means is "lo tisat shem Yahweh." Do not rise up, or do not oh God, what would the word be? Tisa, like lift up the name of Yahweh, your God, the Shav, for vainly or for no reason, or with false intentions. Because Yahweh will not pronounce innocent, literally will not clean, will not pronounce innocent he who bears. That's the way they usually translate. Who bears his name falsely. Okay, and lifting up his name or bearing his name is, it might be, so there are different opinions on this. So it might be just using his name frivolously, right? Or using his name, just saying his name in vain, as we generally understand it. But more likely what it means is, so the bearing his name means, once again, bearing his name in an oath, bearing his name in a swear, okay, lifting up his name, invoking his name when you swear. And that would make sense because l'shav, okay, would relate to this idea of bearing his name, or lifting up his name, bearing his name in a false oath, right? And that would seem to be lechazek, how do you say this in English? Strengthened by this phrase here, right? This would seem to be an shall we say an expansion or an explanation or a clarification of this third commandment that we see in Exodus 20. Okay, that since we see already that this is invoking a number of the commandments, not in order necessarily, but this chapter is invoking a number of the commandments. This would clearly, from its language, seem to be invoking the third commandment, and therefore it gives us clarification, or it gives us some expansion on what the third commandment is actually saying. And since here it's very clear that we're talking about swearing falsely in Yahweh's name, that would shed some light. Oh my God, I'm almost out of battery here. I'll have to plug in a second. I got to plug in right now. That would shed some light on what is being said in the third commandment in Exodus 20, that is actually referring to swearing falsely in his name, and not just not just saying his name in vain, like in a frivolous manner. Okay. All right. Let me plug in here. I won't disconnect or anything like that. Is that the unpardonable sin in Judaism? I don't know what that means. I don't know if any sin is unpardonable in Judaism. Maybe murder is the only sin that's unpardonable in Judaism, because it says that if you murder, then you must be put to death. Okay, give me 1 second here. All right, let me just grab the cord here. I'm not going to disconnect or anything like that. Okay. Right. So would not hold someone guiltless, or would not pronounce him innocent for using his name, or for swearing falsely in his name. Yeah, again, that's in Exodus chapter 20, verse 7. Yeah, but what does that mean? Is that an unpardonable sin, you're saying? Is that an unpardonable sin? I think it's more of a statement that you'll pay the price. It doesn't say what the price is. Okay, you'll pay the price if you do such a thing. But there is, I think, there's a basic concept in Torah of repentance. So let's say you did it, but you're truly sorry. Okay, David committed adultery and murdered, and immediately expressed remorse, and he was not put to death. Okay, that's when Nathan the prophet came to him with the parable of the poor man's lamb. Okay, so Yahweh is very merciful. Okay, and at the end of the day, since this is between you and this is between a human being and Yahweh, he'll decide what the punishment is. And if someone realizes their mistake and shows remorse, from my knowledge and my experience with Yahweh and with the Torah, then I can't speak for him, right? It's his ultimate decision. But I would say that probably in such a case, he would forgive if a person is truly remorseful. Yahweh is erech apayim, okay, Rav Chesed. He's long suffering. They usually translate it erech apayim. Literally, what it means long in the nose. And what the heck does that even mean? Okay, there's a biblical expression of chara af or charon af, which literally means flames or fire coming out of one's nose. And that's an analogy to mean, like, that's it. Obviously the analogy is clear, right? You even see it like in the cartoons when someone gets angry and like steam comes out of the person's nose. Okay, maybe they even get that from the Torah. I don't know. So charon af means that's it. Like he's furious. Okay, I wonder what the etymology furious is. I wonder if it has related to do with furious fire. It could be. I'm not going to look it up now. But at any rate, so this is the phrase that's often used in the Tanakh of charon af, like fire finally comes out of either human beings or out of Yahweh's nose. That's it. He's furious. Okay. And erech apayim literally means long in the nose. Okay, long in the noses, or long in the nose, long in the nostrils. And what it's basically saying is it's also an idiom, or it's also a figurative phrase, which means that Yahweh, it takes a long time before that flame comes out of Yahweh's nose. In other words, and they usually translate it as long suffering. It's a horrible translation, but that's the best you can do in English, right? So Yahweh is erech hapayim v'rav chesed, and full of mercy, full of kindness. Okay, so if you take an, I'm not recommending that anyone deliberately take an oath in Yahweh's name in vain, but if you did make that mistake, like pretty much any other mistake you've made or one can make or has made in his life, there is this concept of repentance. There is this concept of showing remorse and repenting, and then it's, again, in this case, it's between that person and Yahweh. But it's possible that at that point, I would say more than possible. I don't want to speak for him, right? It's possible at that point that Yahweh would forgive a person even for such a sin, right? But if you keep on doing it, right, then eventually, or maybe even the first time, again, this is all between you and Yahweh. Yahweh figures out these things based on each individual circumstance. Okay? When a punishment is mentioned, that doesn't mean it's going to be carried out. There are punishments from God, there are punishments from human beings. Okay? There are certain things that if we do and it's brought before a court, then the court renders judgment, and then the court renders a punishment as well. Okay, that's with evidence, and that's brought before courts, and then that's decided by the courts. I'm talking about in the Torah courts. Hold on, let me drink, please. Okay, and once it's carried out, it can't be undone, right? If someone's, I don't know, given lashes or something like that, then that can't be undone. But in the case of Yahweh, he deals you when that's even what the rabbis call, right, like a ben adam lechavero, ben adam lamakom. That's between you and God. Okay, and we see many cases in the Tanakh. Again, I brought a very extreme case where even in the case where King David committed adultery and murdered, okay, two of the worst sins in the entire Torah, and should have by all rights been put to death. And Natan even says ben mavet atah, literally means you are a son of death, but what it really means is you should be put to death. You deserve to be put to death right now, but because you fought the battles of Yahweh and because you were remorseful, then Yahweh has abandoned that punishment, or has let that punishment pass by or pass over. Okay, so that's my answer to you. I think it's a mistake to think to look at the Torah in this kind of Western Greek / I guess it's really Greek, or Western thinking way, that these are like formulas. If then. I don't think that's the way the Torah works. The Torah is telling us, what could, would, should, and might very well happen, but it's not definite. Okay, the Torah works in a more, I don't like to call it Eastern, in a more Torah way. Okay, so that's my answer, I suppose, Paul. I hope it makes sense. Okay, let's move on. Anything else to say about verse 11 here? Let's see if Robert Alder has anything that he'd like to add. Nope, he doesn't. Okay, let's move on to verse 12. Okay, verse 12. That was verse 12. Let the shimmy out. So let's see if anything to say about verse 12. Yes, he does. Verse 12. Okay, so the main clause, and this is again speaking about swearing falsely, is a citation of the Decalogue, of the Ten Commandments. That's what we just mentioned, right? Profaning the name of your God adds a Holiness Code rationale. To swear falsely is to compromise God's own reputation of holiness through the malfeasance of the people purported to be God's special treasure. Okay, basically, you're making a fool of God. You're making a fool of Yahweh. Okay, if you swear falsely in His name, you're not treating Him and His name with the proper respect. Okay, verse 13. Any questions? Any comments so far? All right, let's move on. Verse 13. Lo ta'ashok et re'acha ולא תגזול לא תלין פעולת שכיר איתך עד בוקר. So do not oppress, take advantage of your fellow man, your fellow Israelite is really what this means in this case, in this context. Cheat, they translate this here. Velo tigzol, okay, don't steal from him, don't rob him. So what's the difference between tignavu and tigzol? I guess this is outright stealing, and this is maybe robbing by deception or something like that. I'm not really sure, to be 100% honest. Lo talin pe'ula. Okay, we'll get to the second part in a second. Let's get a translation here. You shall not defraud your fellow man. You shall not rob. That's how Robert Alter translates it. Let's see if he has a comment. And then he talks about the hired wages. We'll get to that in a second. Okay, so we'll go with that. Do not defraud your fellow man and do not rob. So again, these are general ethical principles. Basically, what this is saying, it's going through all the possible ways you could take advantage of your fellow Israelite and saying, don't do it, right? Don't steal. Leave the coin. Well, that's a little bit something different. Don't steal from him. Don't lie. Where was the lying? Right? Don't lie and don't act deceptively. Don't steal. Okay? Don't oppress or take advantage of, and don't rob. Again, Robert Alter finds that not as take advantage of, defraud. Okay. Okay. Lo talin pi'ulat sachir itcha ad boker. So do not leave the well, I'll translate his salary here, but I'll talk about this grammatically in a second. So do not keep the salary of a hired worker with you until the morning. Meaning, if you have a hired worker, by the way, sachir is a very specific. It's one of the statuses that's mentioned in the Torah. Okay, so we have ezrach, we have ger, we have toshav, we have sachir, we have even nochri or ben nechar. Right, there are all these various statuses, and I've gone through them before. I'm not going to go through them right now, but sachir is okay. So sachir, so an ezrach is someone who is okay. Okay, we'll go through it. So just so I can point out, I'll go through it quickly. Okay. Shalom Melech. It's Aiden Larange. Oh, okay. Hello, Aiden. Of course, it's Aiden Larange, Movement of Torah Libertarianism. So Ezrach is someone who, I'm going to use the United States analogy. Okay, it's someone who was born in the United States of America, maybe even more than that. Someone who can trace his ancestors back to the Mayflower. Okay, that's an Ezrach. A ger is someone who is not born in the United States of America, but becomes a naturalized citizen. Comes to the United States, goes through the naturalization process, and eventually gains his citizenship through whatever the process is. That's a ger. Okay. The next is a toshav. A toshav is a green card holder, someone who is not a citizen, but who has permanent residency in the United States of America. I'm just using the United States as an example because I know it and because many of the people here know it. So a toshav is a green card holder. Okay. Next is a sachir. By the way, there's also an eved. An eved is a slave. A slave is believe it or not kind of like a ger. If it's someone, because a slave, an eved is a permanent part of a household. So he's not coming and going. He's a permanent part of an Israelite household, and so in many ways, an eved has the status of a ger. Okay, but that's another story. That we'll get to another time. Then after the toshav, which is like a green card holder, then we have the sachir. So what is a sachir? A sachir is what I call a seasonal worker. So an example in America would be a Mexicans who come to Southern California during the harvest season for a couple of months to help with the harvest, and they come on I can't remember what it is. I think a B2 visa or something like that. It's a work visa. Okay, they are temporarily allowed to work within the United States of America, and when their work is done, they go back to Mexico. Okay, that would be a sachir. Okay, it's someone who is not a permanent member or permanent resident in the land of Israel. It's someone who's like a migrant worker, okay, who comes for seasonal work or who's passing through, or maybe comes and goes, but is not permanently staying in the land of Israel, okay? And maybe by extension, it's anyone who has that kind of work, who's just working on a day-to-day basis. But Sachir is specifically that. Then after Sachir, then you have the Nochri or the Ben Nechar. I'm sorry, I forgot the Nilwe. The Nilwe is, well, we won't get into all that right now. Just Ben Nechar is someone who has no connection whatsoever with the nation of Israel, like someone who's living in China who never heard of Israel. That would be a Ben Nechar. Okay, so Sachir is someone who is basically, again, like a day-to-day worker, like a farmhand or something like that. And here it says lo talin peulat sachir itra ad boker. So if you have a worker like this, then you're supposed to pay him on the day that he works. Okay, you don't keep his salary with him until the next day. Okay, you're supposed to pay him quickly. Now, does that mean that this is always in this modern day and age that's always the arrangement you have to make with a worker? Maybe you pay on a biweekly basis because that's the way the accounting the accounting firm works or something like that. I think the general idea is that you pay him promptly, right? You pay him on a regular prompt basis, and because he needs that money. Okay, if anyone has ever worked these kinds of jobs, like temp jobs or something like that, or day-to-day, jobs where almost like, you're working, I don't know, like an Uber driver, right? You need the money that day. Okay. You worked, you want your money. You don't want to wait 3 weeks for your money. Okay. And that's basically what this is saying. Now, talin pi'ulat sachir itcha ad boker. Lo talin pi'ulat sachir itach ad boker. So I translated the word pi'ulat as salary, but that's not really what it means. Pi'ula means the work. So literally, if I were to take this completely literally, okay, this says do not keep the work of your hired servant or your salaried worker with you until the morning. So what does that mean? Do not keep the work of your hired worker with you until the morning. Well, there's a concept that we see frequently in biblical Hebrew, and I forgot the technical name of it, but it doesn't matter. I'll explain the concept. That the word that's being used is a stand-in, or the word that's being stated here is a stand-in for the outcome of the word. We see this also with melacha, with malechet, okay, with melacha or malechet ish, okay, the work of a man, the tasks of a man, the tasks that a man carries out, okay, that could be a stand-in for the results, okay, or the outcome, or in this case, the payment that is to be given in return for the work of this person. So even though literally it says, do not keep the work of a I think they usually translate this as hired servant. So of a salaried work with you until the morning. What it means is what it means is that the work is a stand-in for the compensation for the work. And again, I wish I remembered the technical term in biblical Hebrew, but we see this a lot where a word is standing in for the results or the outcome of that action. Okay, and that's exactly what we see here. Okay, any questions? Any comments? Is this site accurate for the Hebrew? I don't know what you mean. I didn't. Wink, wink. Okay, let's see if there's any commentary here. Should not keep the hired man's wages with you through the night. The presumption is the hired man is without reserves, right? So that's exactly what we're saying. The example is like an Uber driver, okay? If you have to resort to driving an Uber, you probably need that money like now, okay? And especially in a society like non-Western or pre-Western societies, ancient Near East societies, everything was about your family connections, your clan connections, ownership of land, and so on. And if you're a sachir, if you're just coming from another country and just helping out during the harvest season, then you don't have any of that network behind you. You don't have your family, your clan, land, tribal connections, any of that stuff. Okay, you're basically on your own. Okay, imagine if you were to just pick up today and move to a different country. like Japan or something, and you didn't know anyone there, and you were able to get a job working in a, I don't know, a McDonald's in Tokyo or something like that, okay? You don't have you need that money, okay? The person who owns the McDonald's doesn't need that money today, but you need that money now, okay? And that's the idea. That's the idea here. That is the Sahir, because he's on such a low status, he's not even like a Toshav that permanently lives in Israel. He's just someone who's passing through for a couple of days or a couple of months or who knows how long. Okay, he is in need of that money. So the presumption is that the hired man is without preserves. Holding back his wages not only subjects him to a night of anxiety as to whether he will be paid, but can impose actual hardship, for he may need the wages for his evening meal. Okay, fair enough. Okay. Any questions, any comments? Sorry, what I mean to say is regarding the site is that what it's basing its verses on from, as some verses in the Christian. Yeah, I know the numbering can be a little bit different, so you just have to follow along in whatever version you're using. I don't know. I've noticed that. I don't know why the numbering is different in certain versions. I don't know the details of that, but yes, I've noticed that over the years. Okay, verse 14. Lo tikale el cheresh wa lifnei iwer lo titen michshol v'yirata me'elohecha ani Yahweh. Okay, so do not curse a deaf man, a deaf person, and do not put a stumbling block before a blind person. And fear your God, I am Yahweh. And there we have the I am Yahweh once again. So typical of the quote unquote Holiness Code. So is this meant to be literal? I don't think so. Okay. But I think it's expressing an underlying principle. Okay. Don't curse a deaf person. Okay, that's a pretty low thing to do, to curse a deaf person, because he can't hear you cursing him. He can't even respond. He doesn't even know you're doing it. Okay, and don't put a stumbling block before a blind person. Okay, so for obvious reasons, right? You're also taking advantage of this person's limitations. You're taking advantage of his limitations to do something not nice to him. Okay, and I think that's the underlying principle here. So in terms of whether it's meant to be taken literal or not, yes and no. These are examples, okay? But they represent a general principle, which is you know that someone has a certain limitation, okay, or you know that someone has a certain disability or limitation, then if you take advantage of that limitation, of that disability, to hurt the person when he doesn't warrant it. Okay, I'm not talking about a Hezbollah operative, right? You can curse a deaf Hezbollah operative and put a stumbling block before a blind Hezbollah operative, which there are many now after the pager and walkie-talkie attacks of last week. But it's illustrating it's using a specific example to use a general principle, which is if you have an advantage over this other person. Okay, this person doesn't have hearing, or this person doesn't have sight, you do, and you're taking advantage of his disabilities or his limitations to take advantage of him. You're taking it. I think it's clear, right? You're taking advantage of another person's limitations to do evil. Okay, to that person. Okay. And that is the underlying principle behind the specific example. Often the Torah will work with specific examples as stand-ins or as illustrations of underlying principles. So when it says that if your ox falls into a pit, it doesn't necessarily mean an ox. It's using that as an illustration of a general principle. The idea is to internalize the general principle that underlies it and see what Yahweh is really trying to tell us. Because the Torah could have just said, well, don't take advantage of a person who has a disability. Okay, or don't use a person's disability to take advantage of him. But that would be pretty dry. It's much better, it's much more illustrative to take specific examples to illustrate the point, and then from those those examples, from those illustrations of the point, we get the general principle. And that's what the Torah does very often. Okay? All right. Any questions, any comments so far? If not, we'll go on. Paul Walker. I see Paul Walker, but I can't let you in, Paul. They will need to connect to their mic cam before you can add them to the stream, is the message I'm getting here. Okay, let's move on. Let's see if there's any comment there. Okay. So Robert Alter does have a comment. So there is both a common denominator and a logical discrepancy. The rhetorical figure of Zeugma? Zeugma? Never heard of that one. Okay, I gotta look that one up. Hold on a second. Robert Alter never ceases to surprise me. Zeugma. What the heck does that even mean? Zeugma. Zeugma? A figure of speech in which a word applies to two others in different senses. E.g., John and his license expired last week, or to two others of which it semantically suits only one, e.g., with weeping eyes and hearts. Interesting. Wow. Okay, never heard of that one before. Let's see some other examples of zeugma. Where was that? Wikipedia. In rhetoric, zeugma, from the ancient Greek zeugma, is a yoking together. And solepsis, whatever that means, from the ancient Greek solepsis, a taking together, are figures of speech in which a single phrase or word joins different parts of a sentence. Okay, let's see some examples, right? Didn't we see? Oh boy, well, we're not going to read through the whole article here. Type 2, type 1, where a single word is used in relation to two parts of a sentence, although grammatically or logically only applying to one. He works his work, I mine. Huh? Okay. Anyway, I think we get the general idea, okay, from those examples. So what does Robert Alter have to say? He says it's a zeugma, and let's see what he means by this. I have no idea. Between these two prohibitions, in both instances, the sensory impairment of the victim prevents him from perceiving that someone is exploiting his weakness in a nasty way. But abusing or verbally insulting a deaf man gratuitously humiliates him in a fashion that he himself, unhearing, may never become aware of, whereas placing a stumbling block before a blind man causes him hurt, of which he will immediately become aware. Okay, fair enough. A long exegetical tradition sees both these cases as figurative instances of a more general category of moral turpitude. Placing a bottle of whiskey, for example, in front of a recovering alcoholic would fall under the rubric of putting a stumbling block before the blind. Okay, so actually, Robert Alter is making an interesting point. In the first case, in the case of cursing a deaf man, the deaf man is never going to find out unless somebody tells him, but he's never going to know that you cursed him. In the second case, if you put a stumbling block before a blind man, then he's going to find out that you did it when he stumbles on it. But then again, he may not find out who did it, right? Because he couldn't see who did it. So I don't know. I don't know if that's 100%. It's an interesting thought. Okay. All right, let's go on. Romulus and Remus. It could be a YouTube mod for you if you want. Edan Larange, come to Catherine. What I really need, much more than a YouTube mod, is a video and sound engineer. Someone who's gonna to help me run all the technical sides of doing this, because really it's actually a lot more difficult than you think, setting everything up, and then oh god, it's a pain in the neck. Anyway, so come to Catherine. Okay, I'm waiting for you, brother. All right, I know you will. I know. Man, I'm telling you, it'll be the best movie ever made in your life. I'm serious, okay? Whenever you're ready, no pressure. Okay, verse 15. Lo ta'asu awel b'mishpat, lo tisa pnei dal, v'lo dar pnei gadol, b'tzedek tishpot amitecha. So do not do, avel is perversion, I guess they usually translate it as evil, injustice. I always remember avel as evil, right? Because they sound alike. I don't think that's where evil, the word evil comes from, but I always translate in my head as evil, but it really means perversion, I would say. Okay. How do they translate it here? Once again, they translate here as injustice. I don't like that translation. Robert Alter translates it as do no wrong injustice. Do no wrong injustice. And Everett Fox translates it as, and he's an excellent, excellent, excellent translator as well, corruption and justice. So that's a good one. I like that translation. Okay, I would say you are not to pervert justice, or you're not to do do perversion and justice. Okay, where were we? That's Exodus 20. I'll close at Exodus 20 for now. Okay. Okay, do not do corruption and justice. I like that. Okay, so justice has to be administered correctly and fairly. Lo tisa pnei dal. Okay, so do not lift up, do not bear, do not lift up the face of a poor person. Okay, and what this is generally understood to mean is just because a person is poor, don't favor him in justice. Okay, I want to look at a translation because I've always, hold on a second. Let's see. And Robert Alter, you shall do no wrong. You shall not favor the wretched. That's how Robert Alter translates it. Everett Fox translates it as you're not to lift up in favor of the face of the poor. So yeah, I guess the greats all agree that that's what it means. I always thought, although honestly, grammatically, is what it's saying. I always thought maybe what this means is don't judge against him just because he's poor, right? It's so easy for a judge to say, oh, this is a poor person. He's not an important person. There's nothing much he can do. He doesn't have any influence in society. So I'll favor the rich person in the case. That would always seem to be more in line with how the Torah is usually speaking about poor people. And I want to see if there's any justification for that. Something I've really thought about for years. But honestly, I don't think that is correct because the language there, lo tisa, does mean do not lift up. Okay, do not lift up, literally lift up the face of the poor person. Let's see. Leviticus 19, just for the heck of it. 1915. Leviticus 19:15. Let's see if any of the commentators might say something along those lines, of these various commentators. Okay, respect the person of the poor. The general statement in the preceding clause is here more minutely defined. The consideration for the infirm enjoined in Leviticus 19:14 is not to influence the decision of the judge who is to administer justice even if the poor is thereby reduced to greater poverty, and though the rich party to the suit may benevolently desire a verdict against him to save the needy. Okay, so he does not agree with that. So as through to pity him to give him an unrighteous, through pity to him to give an unrighteous sentence. So that one also disagrees with me. Let's see. That's talking about a bunch of verses. We'll skip that one. It should not remember through the week for 1 second. Okay, that's not even relating to that verse. That's not even relating to that verse. Okay. Should not do unrighteous injustice. This is said with respect to the judges and witnesses. Ibn Ezra, one of my favorite Torah commentators, notes that the one should not bear false witness in a court of jurisdiction, and the other should not pretend. Okay. That's, I think, a different verse it's already speaking about. I'm not sure why this is all on a different verse. Against unrighteousness, justice to be done to all. The less danger of respecting the person of the poor has to be guarded against, as well as the greater and more obvious peril of honoring the person of the mighty. The scales of justice must be held even, and her eyes bandaged, that she may not prefer one. Hold on, let me just quit WhatsApp because I'm getting calls on it. The scales of justice must be held even, and her eyes bandaged, and she may not prefer one appellant to another on any ground except that of merit and demerit. If you have respect to persons, you commit sin and are convinced of the law as transgressors, etc. Okay? You need to respect the person of the poor to do anything out of regard to a person. Yeah, so I guess all the commentators pretty much agree and disagree with me, and I actually disagree with myself because, as I said, it really is not supported by the language here. But I thought maybe one of them would have some insight. So it does seem to say clearly, Lotisa Pene Dal, that even if you feel sorry for this poor person, you can't pervert judgment. You can't pervert judgment in his favor just because you feel sorry for him and he's poor. Okay, well, that seems to be the consensus there. Okay. All right, let me get rid of this person here. This is getting annoying. Okay. Okie dokie. So that's 15. Velot edar pnei gadol. So do not honor the face of a great man or a wealthy, great, well-known, famous man. B'tzedek. Okay. B'tzedek tishpot amitecha. Okay. You shall with justice. Tzedek is justice. You shall judge your fellow man. In other words, justice should be blind, as we saw. It doesn't matter who the people are that are standing before you, whether they're poor and you feel sorry for them, whether they're great, influential, wealthy, and you might honor them. In either case, you ignore their particular status in society, you ignore their particular circumstances, and you judge blindly. Justice must be blind, right? Okay. All right, let's see if there's anything else that needs to be said here. So Robert Alter says both Hebrew words involve idioms that make face the object of the verb, literally lift up the face, glorify, honor the face. The term for rich more generally means great, but in economic contexts here is an antonym to wretched or an indigent. It regularly has the meaning of wealthy, right? I agree with that. So here, gadol, which just means great in general, is being used in contrast to dal. Dal means like very, like, it means literally thin or very like thin or dilute. But gadol means great. So this really means like small, and this means great. But in this context, this means poor, and this means rich. Okay. All right. Is there anything else to be said there? I don't think so. Okay. We're going to go for about another 10 minutes, and then we're going to end it here, and then we're going to end it there. Let's see. Can we finish? No, we're not going to get through this chapter for sure not. Okay. Verse 16. And of course, there's a famous statement in the Torah of talking about justice. Let's see if we can find it here. Oops. Oh, there we go. Tzedek Tzedek Tirdof. And that is in Deuteronomy 15:20. Okay. and we'll get to Deuteronomy eventually. So Deuteronomy 15:20 has this famous statement. I'm sorry, why is it not here? I'm sorry, 16:20. Okay, tzedek tzedek tirdof. Literally, justice, justice you shall pursue. But we know that repetition means emphasis. So often it's translated as you shall surely pursue justice, or you shall most definitely pursue justice. But literally what it says is justice, justice you shall pursue, lima'an tichye, in order that you shall live, v'yarashta et haaretz, and you inherit, you take over the land, asher Yahweh Elohecha noten lach, that you inherit the land that Yahweh is giving you. Okay? So we'll get to that when we get to Deuteronomy. That's a famous statement, tzedek tzedek tirdof. And where does it appear? I think it appears in some. Let's see here. Tzedek tzedek tirdof. 1 second here. Oops, it's right here. There's even a Wikipedia article on it. There is. That's just the wiki quotes. It doesn't matter. I think it appears somewhere on, I don't know, some American document or something. I can't remember now. Okay. Anywho, we can close here. Zeugma. All right. Okay, so verse 16, we'll try to get to, I think, 18, and then we'll stop there. Verse 16, Lo telech rachil be'amecha, lo ta'amod al dam re'echa, ani Yahweh. So these are two different, again, ethical, I don't know if I can call them commandments, ethical injunctions. No, injunctions is the wrong one. Ethical enjoinments, right? Ethical principles, let's call them. Okay. So lo telech rachil be'amecha. So this is often translated as do not run around saying gossiping among your people. Why does it keep on trying to verify what's that? Okay, thank you. Okay, let's see how Robert Alter translates that one. Shall not go about slandering your kin. Okay, but literally what it means, so arachil, let's look up this word here. Let me just find it. One second here. Hold on, I might put on my headphones. There's a lot of noise in the background here. Slander, okay, they're just translating it as slander. So we'd always learned in yeshiva. Let's look this up for a second. Let me just see something here. Let me just see something here for 1 second. Yeah, from Hebrew rachal. Yeah, there we go. While I'm traveling about, Sunday carrying tales. Hebrew rachal. Let me just look this up for a second. To go about. Servants, First Kings, Nehemiah. 1 second here. Yaninu rochlim. Right. So a rochel in modern Hebrew means like a store owner or like a peddler, someone who goes around selling goods. And that's what we see here in Nehemiah. Okay. Merchants, they translate it as. Okay. translates here as merchants, here as traders, the same idea. So, and even in Song of Songs of the merchant, right? So rochel is a merchant or trader. And the spice merchants, they translate. I think I have to put on my headphones. These people are really annoying me. It's the next house over, and they're making a lot of noise. But I'll give it another couple of minutes. Okay, you know what? Should I put on my headphones? Let me put on my headphones. We only have about 10 minutes left anyway. 1 second. Okay. Israelis are not exactly the quietest people on planet Earth. They're not like the Japanese. Let's put it that way. Okay, let's see if I can get my headphones going here. Okay, can you guys hear me? I just want to do a quick sound check. Can everybody hear me? Because I switched over my headphones. I just want to make sure you can hear me. Yes? Okay, cool. All right, so okay. So just one more setting. What the heck? 1 second, please. Hey, the Laurence, these are the JBLs that we were talking about. So there's an app for them if you don't know. So I'm gonna go into the app for a second. Connections. Oh, I'm not connected here. Okay, that's what it is. All right, I'll do it later. It's all right. It doesn't matter. We only got 10 minutes left anyway. Okay, so right. Okay, so you shall not favor the wretched, and you shall not defer to no. Where were we? Wait, let me try to do this. Just give me 1 second here, because it really is annoying the way it's set up. Sorry about this. Oh, damn it. Okay. All right. It was my fault. Can you hear me now? No audio. Damn. 802. Okay. Can you guys hear me now? Okay. So let me just go back and say it again. So the underlying root. So here we have, and I think we'll sum up it. I think we'll end after this. So the underlying root, okay, so it says, Lo telech rechil be'amecha. So this is translated as do not go around gossiping, being a gossip among your people. The underlying root is rachal, okay? Rachal means to go around. Rochel is a merchant or a trader, a peddler, someone who goes around selling his wares, right? Goes from marketplace to marketplace or corner to corner, selling whatever it is, his sour pickles, whatever the case may be, okay? That's a rochel. And we see instances in the Tanakh of where this word rochel is used as a merchant, okay? And I gave the example of Nehemiah 3, but Nehemiah 13:20 would be a much better example. I guess I'll just go to it very quickly. Okay. ילינו הרוכלים מוכרי כל ממכר מחוץ לירושלים פעם ושתיים. So this is speaking about Nehemiah 13. This is speaking about this is I was just speaking about these verses the other day with somebody. This is speaking about merchants waiting outside the gates of Jerusalem, or wanting to come into the gates of Jerusalem to sell their wares on the Shabbat. Okay, so let's look at this because this is very interesting on its own. Verse 19. So it was when the shadows fell upon the gates of Jerusalem, the Fnei Shabbat, before the Shabbat. I was speaking about this in the context of this being proof that the Shabbat starts at night, because it's when the shadows fell on the gates of Jerusalem before the Shabbat. Because we have these people in the Biblical Calendar Society who, and even here, some, I don't know if they're still here, but there are some people who say that the Shabbat begins in the morning. And this is one of the proofs that the Shabbat begins at night, because it says that the shadows fell on the gates of Jerusalem before the Shabbat. Okay. Well, when did the shadows fall on the gates of Jerusalem? It's not going to be when the sun rises in the morning. It's going to be when the sun is setting at night. Okay. Okay. So Lifnei Shabbat ve'omra. So I said v'yiskaru adelatot. So I commanded that the gates be closed, the doors be closed. Ve'omra asher lo yiftachum ad achar Shabbat, and I commanded that they not be open until after the Shabbat. Umina arai amati al sharim lo yavo masa b'yom Shabbat. And I took my servant youths, my soldiers basically, and I stationed them at the gates, al sharim lo yavo masa b'yom Shabbat, in order to make sure that no load comes into the city of Jerusalem on the day of Shabbat, on the Shabbat day. Okay, verse 20. וילינו הרוכלים ומוכרי כל ממכר מחוץ לירושלים פעם ושתיים. And for one or two times, for the first couple of times, the rochlim are the peddlers, once again, the merchants or the traders of the peddlers. That's related to our word here, rachil. Okay, gossiper. Okay, so vialino rochlim umochrei kol mimkar. So the merchants or the traders, the peddlers, mochrei kol mimkar, and the sellers of all kinds of goods for sale, they actually camped or slept michutz Yerushalayim, outside of Jerusalem, pam shtayim, one or two times. In other words, so Nehemiah is commanding that the gates be shut before the Shabbat comes in, when the shadows are growing long on the gates, that the gates be shut before the Shabbat comes in, to prevent these rochlim, to prevent these peddlers and these sellers of all kinds of goods from entering Jerusalem on the Shabbat, and that the gates not be open until after the Shabbat is over. He stations his young men his young soldiers at the gates to make sure this is enforced. And the first couple of times, these rochlim, these peddlers and these merchants, they camp outside the gates, until, because they don't yet get the idea. Maybe they think Nehemiah is going to open the gates. Maybe he's not serious. Maybe they haven't yet gotten the memo that these gates really are going to stay closed. Okay, verse 21. And so I witnessed against them, and I said to them, why do you camp out next to the wall? Im tishnu yad ishlach b'chem. Im tishnu yad ishlach b'chem. Okay? If you tishnu, if you do it another time, from the word sheni or shnayim, okay, if you do it a second time, meaning another time, ishlach yad b'chem. I'm gonna send my hand against you, but I'm going to basically beat you up. Basically, what it's saying, I'm gonna react violently. Okay, I'm gonna send my guys out to hurt you. Okay, b'chem min ha'et ahi lo ba'u b'Shabbat, and from that time onwards, they did not come on the Shabbat. These rochlim, these peddlers, and these mochrei kol mimkar, and these sellers of all types of goods. Okay. ואומרה ללוויים אשר יהיו מתארים ובאים שומרים השערים לקדש את יום השבת, גם זאת זכרה לי. Okay, so ואומרה ללוויים, and I commanded the Levites אשר יהיו מתארים, who were in a state of purity, or maybe were making other people in a state of purity. I think in a state of purity, mita'arim, even though it should be torim, but it's later Hebrew perhaps. Ubaim אשר יהיו מתארים ובאים שומרים השערים, so they should come in and they should the gates of the Kadesh at Yom Shabbat to keep the Sabbath holy. Gam zot zachra li Elohai. And now Nehemiah calls out to God and he says, also this, remember about me, my God, chusa alai kirov chazdecha, and have mercy on me according to your great mercifulness, according to your great mercy. Okay, so it's a beautiful story about how Nehemiah orders. He sees that people were bringing loads into Jerusalem on the Shabbat, and they were defiling Shabbat by doing so. So he orders that the gates of Jerusalem be closed, the gates of Jerusalem be closed before the Shabbat comes in, and he stations his young men there, and then after these rochlim and these peddlers and these sellers still stay there 1 or 2 times more, he actually goes out and threatens them and says, you do it again, I'm gonna kick your asses. Okay, and so that's that. All right, so getting back to this here, verse 16. Okay, so now we get a better idea of this underlying root rachal, resh chaf lamed. We know that a rochel is a peddler, and so where it says lo telech, do not go around as peddler in among your people. Okay, then that we know that this is using the analogy of a peddler that goes around selling his wares, using that analogy to show that someone who spreads gossip is just like a peddler, right? He's going around selling he's going around selling or giving out all of this garbage out of his mouth, speaking slander and speaking gossip about other people. Okay, all right, and we'll finish up here. You guys can hear me now, right? Okay. And finally, lo ta'amud al dam re'echa ani Yahweh. Do not stand, and sometimes we'll translate it, stand idly by on the blood of your fellow man. In other words, if you see that your fellow Israelite is being hurt, is being beaten or being hurt in some way, and again, maybe we can even extend this more figuratively, but you should not stand by. Okay, you should not stand by idly while your fellow Israelite is being attacked, being hurt, being killed, etc. And then, of course, we have the Ani Yahweh. Okay, so let's get a little commentary. Lo ta'amod adam re'echa. Let's get a little commentary on that. First, we'll get a translation. Okay, you shall not stand over the blood of your fellow man. And Everett Fox translates it as, you're not to stand by the blood of your neighbor. I am Yahweh. Okay. And let's see if there's any commentary here. Okay, so for that verse 16. So Jacob neatly observes that the verbs are pointedly sequenced from going about to standing. Oh, that's interesting. And presumably doing nothing, both with the effect of complicity in doing harm. Although there is some dispute among interpreters about the meanings of stand over the blood, there is a degree of consensus among traditional commentators supported by the bracketing of the two sentences in this verse, which it means to stand by without intervening while your fellow man's blood literally or figuratively is spilled. Okay? So we said that this doesn't necessarily mean that it's literal. Okay? It could mean that it's figurative as well. So I don't know, it would be a figurative what would be a figurative example of a statement? Don't stand by idly while you over your brother's blood. I don't know. Let's say somebody is threatening them, right? Well, maybe that is almost maybe that's almost, I don't know. Let's say somebody is going to take advantage of them monetarily. Okay, then that doesn't oh, this is Nehemiah. And that doesn't involve the actual spilling of blood, but don't stand by idly as your brother's blood is spilled. In other words, if you see that your fellow Israelite is under some kind of threat and is about to be hurt, then you don't just stand there silently. And I really like the comment that he brings from Milgram. Milgram is an expert in the book of Leviticus, that lo telech, here it says lo telech, do not go around, okay, as a gossip merchant among your people. Okay, and do not stand on the blood of your fellow man. Don't go and don't stand. And Milgram actually points that out. I think it's really, really brilliant. Okay, all right. So I think we're gonna end it here. Okay, I'm trying to think if we should do 2 more verses. Nah, it's long enough. We're gonna end it here. Any comments? Any questions before we go? Any comments or any questions before we end it? No? All right. If not, then I'm going to thank you guys for joining us here at the World Alliance of Qara'im Torah Study. To stand on someone's blood who died, it sounds like you could use blood, something to support you. Stand on the blood, stand to live, to prosper upon it by use of it. I've never heard that interpretation before, but I will point out, Jos, that it's different from the commentaries. I will point out, just that Robert Alter did say that this sentence is a little bit of an enigma, right? Where does he say that? Although there is some dispute among interpreters among the meaning of stand over the blood, right? So who knows? I've never heard that. You're saying doesn't really resonate with me, but who knows? Go see if maybe go see if maybe you can find some support among it against support for it among other commentators. And I don't know. It doesn't resonate with me. The typical meaning here of standing idly by as your brother's blood is spilled seems to make a lot more sense to me. Okay, so we're going to end here. I thank you all for joining us at the World Alliance of Qara'im. I want to point out that that I've now started putting more content on the World Alliance of Qara'im YouTube channel. So there are 2 YouTube channels. There's Karaite Insights, okay, YouTube channel, and there's a World Alliance of Qara'im YouTube channel. And I've started maybe switching over more to put some more content on the World Alliance of Qara'im channel. So check that out as well. And you can just look it up on YouTube, World Alliance of Qara'im, or I could just, I don't have the video in front of me, but yeah, just look it up. And I did as I mentioned at the beginning, I did a trip yesterday to Bethsaida, the biblical city of Zer, and I did a number of videos from there, and they're all on the World Alliance of Qara'im YouTube channel, and there's some other stuff there. So yeah, and just please spread the word, like, subscribe, do all of that kind of stuff, and yeah, let's get the word out. And if you live in Israel and want to be part of a Karaite community, a live Karaite community, or if you don't live in Israel and you want to make Aliyah and be part of a Karaite community, then come to Katzrin in the Golan Heights. We are unofficially at this point, but very probably officially soon, starting our first World Alliance of Qara'im community here in Katzrin in the Golan Heights. It's a beautiful place to have a community, and I really look forward to building it up. So, okay, I thank you all for joining us here at the World Alliance of Qara'im Torah study. I wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom and a Shavua Tov wherever you are in the world. And at Bezrat Yahweh, we will see you again next week. Hope you enjoyed the study. And we'll go out as we usually do with some music. Let me bring that music up. Shabbat Shalom.
Neyse Shamayim Haaretz.
Üsküdar'a giderken alnına bir yağmur. Üsküdar'a giderken alnına bir yağmur. Katibimin setresi uzun eteği çamur. Katibimin setresi uzun eteği çamur. Katip uykuda uyanmış gözleri mahmur. Katip uykudan uyanmış gözleri mahmur. Katip benim ben katibin elle tanışır. Katibime kolumda gömlekli güzel yaraşır. Üsküdar'a giderken bir mendil buldum. Üsküdar'a giderken bir mendil buldum. Mendilimin içine lokum doldurdum. Mendilimin içine lokum doldurdum. Katibimi ararken yanımda buldum. Katibimi ararken yanımda buldum. Katip benim ben katibin elle karışır. Katibime kolumda gömlekli güzel yaraşır. Katip benim ben katibin elle karışır. Katibime kolumda gömlekli güzel yaraşır.